That's wonderful. Well, tell me a little bit about you. How did you get involved? I'm assuming that, as with most people that I meet that are in nonprofit, they've got a personal story with why they're there. So tell us about you.
Actually, I do have a personal story, which is kind of interesting because people would often ask me, how did you get into this kind of work? And I always said, well, I was just in the right place at the right time because I was working for a nonprofit.
Right.
And I still remember the first homeless family that I saw when I was working at that nonprofit, and they came driving into the parking lot, and I was just feeling like, what could I possibly do to help this family? And they, I gave them food, and I saw them drive off, and I had this sinking feeling of what would happen to them. And then my agency started getting involved in housing issues, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I want to do it. And but now, I mean, all these years later, I look back and say I have a personal story. It's not just only that I was in the right place at the right time to do something that's really important to me, but I think I was actually drawn to that work because when I was a child, my mother became a single mom in the late 1940s when, you know, they're just, I mean, women just were not divorced in those days, and it wasn't something that she chose, but it was something that, you know, she had to live with. And so I saw her struggle and really work very hard. But in those days, there was no such thing as equal pay for equal work. And even though my mom had an education, still it was very challenging for her to make enough money. And we were always just on the edge of poverty. And I can remember being, you know, 9 years old and calling landlords and trying to find cheaper places to rent. And so then around the early 60s, the company that she worked for went bankrupt, and she lost her job, and we became homeless. But there was no word. Homelessness was not a word, and there in those days. So I can remember the fear and distress that I felt over a situation. But I was 12 years old. There really wasn't anything at that time that I could do. I mean, I tried to support my mom as best I could, but, you know, I was still a child. But now I feel really blessed and fortunate because now there are things I can do. I can develop programs. I can build housing. I can advocate for the homeless. I can, you know, I can be a voice for the homeless when often they do not have a voice.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We are going to go to a break, but we're going to keep talking with Jan when she comes back. I'm a little in awe because your story is incredible. But we're going to come back and talk about KITH a little bit more. You're listening to Walk the Talk with Kim on Alternative Talk, KKNW AM 1150.